Hey, isn't it easy to be an effective teacher?
Let's break it down a bit. Why don't you tell me about your favorite teacher?
Wow. Oh, well, my favorite teacher was probably Mrs. Smith. She was nice, she was enthusiastic, flexible, creative, hardworking, good listener, encouraging, firm, curious, fun, knowledgeable, respectable, definitely empathetic, caring. She was inspiring and proactive.
Well, it takes more than just being nice, enthusiastic, and the rest of it. You have to keep in mind the students as well.
Is it really that hard to understand learners?
Well, teaching is a craft. It takes years to become a good teacher. You have to thoroughly understand the subject matter and the concepts of practice and have established a repertoire.
But once you've done all of that, aren't you ready to change lives? Aren't you able to equip all students with what they really need to be successful, to be good people, strong workers, and active citizens of our democracy?
Well, no, exactly. I think there's more to understanding learners and learning than that.
All you need to do is learn teaching techniques in your Peabody classes, though, right?
But you have to keep in mind a lot of other factors as well. An effective teacher has to think about the composition of his or her classroom. Effective teachers have to teach in social justice and realize that the student's experience is shaped by society to be restricted and oppressed. Students have different backgrounds and different experiences. Did you know that most teachers are middle class and therefore have middle class values? Then there may be differences in cultures and in values. They also have to select material, construct experiences so that they connect the interests and capacities of the learner and make future experiences more educative.
Huh. Well, I'm still not sure what you mean.
Let's talk about two schools in Nashville, Hume Fogg and Stratford.
Hume Fogg, we love thee.
Kids without farm make up 80.6% of kids at Hume Fogg, while kids with farm make up 19.4% at Stratford. The graduation rate of the non-farm kids at Hume Fogg for 2012 is over 99%. The graduation rate of farm kids was only 1 point lower at 98.4%. Over 95% of all the students were advanced and proficient in math and English. Meanwhile, the situation is literally reversed at Stratford. 84% in fact, of students have farm at Stratford. Their graduation rate was 63.9% in 2012.
Wow, that's 34.5% lower.
And less than 35% of Stratford students had advanced or proficient scores. That's 60% lower.
I can't believe it. That's horrible. The kids without farm must be better, right?
Unfortunately, the 16% of the student body without farm had only about an 80% graduation rate. And that's still 20% lower than the kids in the same class bracket at Hume Fogg. Less than 50% had advanced or proficient skills in math and English. This is only about 15% better than kids with farm at Stratford.
That's not much better at all.
Yes, these schools are obviously not providing their students with an equitable education. However, it seems in this case, what school you attend matters more than your SES.
Well, wait, aren't there other factors?
Yes, there are. In the paper, The Concept of Equality of Educational Opportunity, Coleman, who doesn't have a first name here, describes 5 kinds of inequalities in education. Tangible community input into the school, racial composition of the school, intangible community input, outcomes of students from equal backgrounds, and outcomes of students from unequal backgrounds.
So we already talked about student outcomes from similar and different backgrounds and discovered that's not equitable.
But you also have to keep in mind the school atmosphere and community input. So when you walk into the doors of Hume Fogg, you see a lot of inspirational posters, like "You Can Do It," a cabinet full of student awards and accomplishments, like "You Did It," college admissions related announcements and posters that supported different class president candidates. These celebrate and recognize students' achievements and goals. College is definitely a feasible opportunity for these kids.
Yeah, that sounds like my high school.
Well, that's not always the case. At Stratford, the only posters we saw were for the anime club, which is cool.
but, not exactly future-focused.
Stratford has 6 clubs, which include Skills USA and ACE. These clubs are related to vocational training, such as construction and ACE. This suggests that Stratford values preparation for the workforce. From the list of clubs, it seems like they are mostly vocationally focused, which is good, but that doesn't open the doors to all possibilities. They lack a college-going culture. On the other hand, Hume Fogg has 60 to 70 clubs, which range in activities from chess to jazz to community service. These clubs are more related to liberal arts, and their purpose is to promote the students' growth as individuals. Though clubs are not nearly as important as academics, the way in which the types vary between schools suggests that there are differences in school culture. Also, the end-of-the-day announcements encourage students to leave campus immediately unless they were meeting with somebody specific.
Something tells me that the kids aren't squatting in the library.
No, they're probably worried about unruly activities on the grounds. Unfortunately, they're not being shown that school is a safe and positive place to spend time. The school cultures and a lot of intangible factors are very different. Something else to keep in mind is community input to the schools.
Yeah, doesn't the community give more to the failing school?
Well, at first it seems that Stratford is more supported by the community by the overwhelming amount of organizations they list as partners. But from what we've experienced, that there are only the Oasis Center and Vanderbilt actually have large impacts. On the other hand, Hume Fogg lists less organizations, but the Bridgestone Arena lends them space for graduation, an astronomical fee if they actually had to pay for it. It seems their partners, though fewer, contribute more overall to minimizing costs for their school, but I wonder what they gave up in the process.
Okay, that seems like a lot to remember. It's pretty complicated.
But wait, there's more! Effective teaching and opportunity making is even more nuanced than what we've covered so far. Teachers have to keep in mind students' constitutional rights to being treated equally regardless of gender, race, or religion. But what I'm really interested in is national origin issues.
How's that different?
Well, it has more to do with understanding learners in general because of overt cultural factors.
I see.
For example, Chicano and Latino students are largely underrepresented in gifted programs when compared to their white and Asian American counterparts. Teachers may have difficulty in communicating with recent immigrants who may not speak proficient English. IQ tests are often culturally biased and may not consider handicaps, so people may misinterpret their potentially lower scores and neglect to challenge them in areas in which they are quite proficient.
But how can a good teacher fix that?
It's all about understanding learners and learning. In order to prevent these misunderstandings, they have to remember that teaching is not a category. Rather, they are teaching a child. Every child has their own unique needs. Teachers must not neglect identifying and placing students according to these needs, whether or not they are a minority.
I don't get it. How can you accommodate and still challenge students who are categorized right along with normal students?
Well, there's no such thing as a normal student, even if one group makes up a majority of the school's student population. Something an effective teacher can never forget is to teach the whole child and see the student as an individual whose uniqueness calls for an individualized response from the teacher. It is important to look and listen non-judgmentally to uncover who they really are and what they think, to work to understand the students. Teaching is not a streamlined, one-size-fits-all, rigid, scripted, formulaic flight of a bullet, but is like the flight of a butterfly, somewhat spontaneous where unexpected opportunities to learn can come up. Kay, have you noticed how I keep on saying, keep in mind? Well, that's because teaching is an accumulative process, and you can't forget about ideas once they arise. Teaching is multidimensionality and simultaneity. As an effective teacher, you have to keep in mind all of these things and appropriately apply them every day.
Talk about the flight of the bullet versus flight of the butterfly.
Well, the flight of the bullet
Concords.
and the flight of the butterfly
Bumblebee.
are really very different concepts.
Because a bullet only travels in one direction once you fire it, even though technically it travels both horizontally and vertically due to acceleration due to gravity.
Unless you fire it directly in a vertical direction.
Right, but that's almost impossible to do.
True.
So anyway,
What do you think of teaching as a profession?
I like teachers.
yeah, I do too. Good teachers.
So you would expect your teacher to understand learners and to realize that that's not the best option for you.
No.
And realize that there are individual differences that they can make accommodations for.
I don't think you can expect that. It'd be nice. It's probably better.
Ooh, the difference
But
between
expect-
maybe a good teacher and a great teacher, an effective teacher, the most
No,
effective.
even the difference between a bad and a good teacher.
Yeah.
But it's,
Oh, okay.
you can't expect.
Oh, so who were your favorite teachers in high school or any grade? Any
Yeah.
school?
Any school
Oh
grade.
God. Oh, this is weird. Mrs. Funk. She was a math teacher that I had, and she was really nice, and basically, we actually learned under her as opposed to some of our other teachers in whose classes we had to teach ourselves. And she was pretty nice about the grades. If you turned something in late, she wouldn't be mad. Plus, she was just stunningly beautiful, and all the guys had a crush on her. So, Bo.
My favorite teacher was probably John David Bowman. Bowman has an M in it, which makes it different from my name. And it's also spelled with an A, so it's different from my name.
Bauman.
Mark David Chapman.
Bowman, yeah. He's actually running for Tempe City Congressman. So if you see his name on the ballot and you live in Tempe, Arizona, vote JD for the thing he's running for. But my favorite teacher was John David Bowman because he taught TOK. Theory of knowledge.
Theory of
It's a class where you examine if you really know what you know and how you know what you know and if you know. And it was so much fun because we just had conversations about life and happiness and politics and being cool guys. English teacher named Mr. Burley. He was a cool guy. He was a surfer dude. Always took, as soon as school was out, he'd go to Peru and surf and go through he was an awesome dude. He was a really cool guy.
That's what a perfect teacher is. Has all those qualities.
Perfect teacher has 8 arms.
Do you think, excuse me, figuratively, do you think that's possible for someone to be a perfect teacher?
Well, seeing as X-ray vision is something that pretty much only Superman can do, and then I'm like, dude, there's only gonna be one perfect teacher. It's probably Superman.
Is there one characteristic you think is the most important?
I like ships and boats, so I'm gonna say the leadership. There's an actual picture on this, as you will see in this diagram. There's an actual picture of a ship opposite the heart on the teacher's chest.
Yes, there is.
So I believe ships are nice. So that one.
I like the encouraging hand. I've never really been one to like teachers who are pretty firm and strict. Instead, I just get into arguments with them. So I like the encouraging hand teacher.
Cool.
You get into an argument? Andrew, I would never see you doing that.
What do you think of that? What do you think of the teacher who tells all of those animals to climb the tree?
Well, if climbing trees is the necessary skill they need, then it's probably important they learn how to climb the tree. For instance, if a pack of, it appears we're on a savanna of some sort, so let's say that a pack of lionesses is stalking this, and they're not going to go after the professor because he has tenure and it would just be too difficult to get rid of him. Oh, actually, what bothers me is that it might actually be the dog actually might have the real advantage, because it might be the only one that could have any experience with human speech enough to actually understand what the diddly dern to do he be saying up in this his house. I'd like to ask why the metaphorical fish is on top of the metaphorical small tree, because he's kind of already climbed the tree. So that makes that fish pretty impressive. Fun.
How do you think the other animals feel about the fish who's already on top of the tree?
Well, I feel like very few of them emote in the same way that we do.
I mean, the only two that are actually like at a significant disadvantage are the penguin and the seal, and they're actually just out. They shouldn't even be alive in this weather.
They're bigger than the other ones because the creator of this informatic thing decided to make them bigger because in their mind they held some kind of special importance. Andrew, would you like to give a serious answer?
Please.
I think yours is pretty serious.
Thank you. Oh, I get it now. They made them bigger because they want you to say it louder. So like if you're reading it, you'd say like,
No.
reflective enterprise. Enthusiasm! Like that, right?
Withenness. Resilience!
That was a good one. Yeah.
We're gonna get kicked out.
I sure hope so.
Just
Butterflies kill lots more people than bullets, sir. I tell you this.
Do they
They're
really?
homicidal maniacs.
Huh. I guess I should lock my doors at night.
You probably should.
I do lock my door. Don't come into my room.
No, he actually doesn't. I go into his room all the time.
I mean, my school technically had a 0 dropout rate. That's because we kicked everybody out.
People are scary. That's the lesson you learn there.
Yeah.
People are scary.
Because you can't teach Jim. Con immigrantes
Are you filming
recentes. Quien no pueden decir inglés proficiente.
Las pruebas IQ son frecuentemente, culturalmente, biasadamente.
Entonces personas pueden misinterpretar sus notas.
Notas
Bajas?
bajas
Y neglectar.
So I'm trying to break down
Amazingly
him,
enough, I
break
still
down
have a
me,
better grade.
to breaking down others.